Boo! Did I scare you? Hope not. Please stay and continue to watch this video. Now, who doesn't love a good horror movie? I know I do. I mean, I don't know why. It's not like I enjoy being scared. Hey, hi, hello, what's up, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Lindsay Ivan, and today we're going to dive into the scary side of movies and discuss the top 10 dark details in horror movies that you may have missed. Starting off at the top, we have A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place came to theaters in 2018 and had audiences shocked with this new concept and for their use of sign language. In fact, I saw this in theaters and the movie was so quiet that I felt too intimidated to eat my popcorn. This movie surrounds a world that has been taken over by alien-type creatures. The only way to survive is to stay super quiet as these creatures detect people by sound. Now, in the opening scene of the movie, most of us probably missed this hidden clever detail. As the family goes into the store to load up on food and medicine, you can see shelves covered with bags of unopened chips. Well, that's because chips would be too loud to eat. The crunching noise would most definitely attract these creatures. I definitely would not survive living among these creatures because I love chips. What's your favorite flavor? Comment down below. Mine is ketchup chips. Those are a Canadian delicacy. In our 9th spot, we have Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth is a 2006 fantasy thriller Spanish film directed by Guillermo del Toro. This movie surrounds Ophelia, a young innocent girl whose life begins to evolve into a fairy tale world when she discovers a labyrinth. However, this labyrinth is filled with some creepy creatures. The scene I will be discussing is the one where Ophelia encounters the creature with eyes for hands. It walks around like this. Imagine that I had eyes there. Yeah. Now this scene first takes place in a long, deep red colored hallway which leads into a wide dining hall. The walls of the hallway are deep reddish brown in color and appear wet, giving the illusion to that of blood. The blood color, along with the rough textured walls, parallel the appearance of the inside of a throat. This emphasizes the danger of the place and the fact that it is home to a pale man who eats children. In addition, the paintings of the pale man eating and killing children, along with the dusty pile of children's shoes, foreshadow her fate. Yet she still didn't get the hint. Furthermore, the fireplace screen is the shape of a mouth with sharp teeth. This also parallels this creature's mouth. Honestly, the set design was really well done for this whole movie in my opinion. Coming in at number 8, we have Insidious. Insidious Chapter 1 was actually one of the first scary movies that I fell in love with. I thought that they genuinely had some good pop-up scares, and the series is well done. Now, before I dive further into these series, let me do a quick little story time. So the first time that I watched Insidious, I was over at my friend's house, and we were both watching the opening scene, which people often made fun of because it was like 3 minutes long. It's super long. Well, during this scene, the TV froze and went black. And then when I got up to go and try and check on it and to fix it, the screen came back on and it was this scary woman's face holding a candle, and I scream and I jump back and I have no clue why her face was on the screen that close. It zoomed in. It scared me. But anyway, maybe her house is haunted. Who knows? Anyways, in this movie there are several times when you can see the ghosts before they actually appear properly on the screen. In Insidious Chapter 1, you can see a ghost boy facing backwards with his head against the wall, blending in with their coats before he is seen in the next scene dancing. This dude is apparently the master of hide and seek because he was just there in plain sight. The same thing goes for Insidious Chapter 2. When the mother is walking down the house on the phone, she passes by her living room and the ghost can be seen chilling at her desk. When you spot these ghosts in the scene, it just adds another layer of creepiness, knowing that the ghosts can come in and go as they please and are constantly lurking around the family. At number 7, we have The Conjuring. Now, I'm also a fan of the Conjuring series. For those of you who don't know, these movies are based off of true life events and real ghostly encounters, which makes the story that more terrifying. Now, The Conjuring 2 is about a demon taking the form as a nun and tormenting the lives of a family. In order to get rid of this demon, they have to learn its name and banish it back to hell. Now, it takes them a long time to figure out this demon's name. However, if you notice in several scenes, its name, Valak, appears in the background. It can be seen in the kitchen, on the bookshelf, on a windowsill, and even their daughter is making a bracelet that spells out his name. Now, how they didn't see that surprises me, but then again, when I first watched the movie, I never noticed those things too, so I'll be lenient on that one. At number 6, we have Psycho. This 1960 Alfred Hitchcock movie surrounds Norman Bates and his mother Norma Bates. Yes, her name is Norma, and she named her son Norman. How original. Now, from this movie, several remakes have been made, including the Netflix series Bates Motel. One of my favorites, actually. In fact, Rihanna actually appears in a couple of the Netflix episodes as Marion Crane, who is one of the main characters in this film. This movie surrounds Norman, who basically is so infatuated with his mother that he ends up embodying her and killing multiple people. It's much more complicated like that, but that's just kind of the gist of it. In this film, there is a really creepy visual that may appear as just a weird transition to the next scene. So what I'm talking about is during a scene when Norman Bates is in the police station, there's a moment of stillness where he just looks directly at the camera and smiles before it transitions into the next scene. But in that transition, it's Norman's face merged with his mother's dead corpse, who he murdered. It's quite creepy. I don't know who came up with that. It's oof. In our 5th spot, we have Final Destination. Ugh, this movie. I watched it as a kid and it made me so paranoid. Like, I couldn't look at household objects the same. I was too afraid that a fridge would fall on me or something after watching these movies. Well, Final Destination is known for being very, out there and extremely gory with crazy situations that realistically wouldn't happen in real life. Now, in a lot of these movies, they often foreshadow the character's death. In fact, that's kind of what the franchise is known for doing. There are way too many to count, but here are some of these examples that you may not have picked up on while hiding under the covers. It's okay, I do it too. In Final Destination 2, Evan is seen cooking a meal for himself. He's a terrible cook, by the way. Like, there was no hand washing and he just missed the pan pouring oil. Like, who does that? But that's not the point. On the fridge beside him, the magnets spell out Hey, H-E-Y-E. As things start to go wrong in his kitchen, the H falls off the fridge, leaving the magnets to spell out I. This is foreshadowing Evan's death, which was a result of getting a ladder impaled in his eye. Now, the next ones are a little more cryptic. In Final Destination 5, 2 of the characters are seen outside of a building called Presage. Presage means a sign or warning that something bad will happen. How fitting. After that, a construction caution sign with an image of a bridge has a small tear, so it looks like the bridge has collapsed, in which it eventually does. And lastly, while one of the characters is at gymnastics, you can see a power cord that resembles a skull face, foreshadowing that her death is near. In this scene, as she is prepping for her routine, her elastic band snaps. This in fact was a foreshadow to her death of a snapped spine. In our 4th spot, we have Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is a great movie about a shy little lamb who's afraid to talk to his other lamb friends. Just kidding. Silence of the Lambs is a 1991 mystery horror starring Jodie Foster as a young FBI trainee, Clarice, and Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a cannibal, murderer, and psychiatrist. This movie is a mind bender on its own. However, there was one key scene that passed right over some of the viewers' heads. In a scene between Clarice and Hannibal, he states the famous line, "A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and some nice Chianti." Now, to some, this may sound like just another disturbing line in the film, when in fact, it had a much darker meaning. Now, back in 1988, when this book was originally written, psychiatric patients were often put on monoamine oxidase inhibitors. While taking these inhibitors, they weren't allowed to eat certain foods or else it would result in their death. 3 of the most deadly foods they couldn't eat were liver, fava beans, and red wine. Yet Hannibal Lecter didn't die. So in this scene, he was in fact telling Clarice that he was off his medication, which then leads him to escape and kill a bunch of people. Lastly, another quick little detail that you may not have noticed is that the actual cover art for this film seems to be just a picture of a death head's hawk moth. These moths naturally have a skull looking shape on their body. However, if you look close enough, this skull is actually made of 2 female bodies, symbolizing how Hannibal would go after women, murder them, and then wear their skin. Coming in at number 3, we have It. The remake of the 1990 Stephen King horror movie was proven to be a big success, becoming the highest grossing R-rated horror movie worldwide. Now, this movie is known for the creepy looking clown Pennywise that pops up numerous times throughout the movie to scare the viewers. Basically, Pennywise terrorizes this town every 27 years or so, attacking the children and feeding off of their fears. Now, throughout this movie, Pennywise makes many subtle appearances that you may not have noticed at first glance. One of his first appearances is when one of the kids, Billy, heads down to his basement basement. Pennywise's yellow glowing eyes can be seen watching him by the stairs before emerging from the water. Pennywise made his next appearance while another one of the kids, Ben, was in the library. He is first seen possessing the body of the librarian, and she just creepily stands there watching Ben in the background. It truly is terrifying. Now, as Ben continues his research, he also comes across some history on the town and on an Easter egg hunt massacre that took the lives of numerous children. Although you may not be able to see it until paused, Pennywise actually appears in this photo, making it seem like all of those children were killed by him. We also have him appear on the brick wall mural behind the kids in another scene. It's literally like, where's Waldo? Where's Pennywise? Lastly, in this movie, there is an eerie scene when the television show that is playing changes to the host and children repeatedly saying, kill him, and then kill them all. If you notice, the children that appear on the show are actually all of Pennywise's victims, including Georgie and the bully that was murdered in the sewers. Next up, in our second spot, we have the 2018 thriller Hereditary. Man, where do I begin with this movie? This movie is just too much for me to handle. Like, I actually felt physically sick while watching it. So on that cheery note, let's discuss it. This movie is about a family who is apparently tied to a cult by their bloodline. The cult was run by the children's grandmother, whose end goal was to summon the demon of hell, Payman. Jeez, I feel like I need to start saging this room or something as I'm talking about it. So in order to do this, the demon needs to inhabit a boy's body from this bloodline. This boy is played by Alex Wolff. Side note, do you guys remember him and his brother Nat Wolff from the Nickelodeon show The Naked Brothers Band? Cause I do. Man, good times. Anyways, so now that we sort of understand the story's concept, let's discuss some things you may not have noticed. In one of the exterior establishing shots of the house, if you zoom in close enough, you can actually see that the house is surrounded by cult members. Terrifying. In another scene, there is a party happening and you can see some of the teens watching a movie. This movie is playing a scene that shows someone getting decapitated, which is a common theme throughout this movie. From his sister cutting off a crow's head, to her getting her own head decapitated, to his mom slicing her head off in front of him, to the ending scene where there are decapitated bodies bowing down to the demon. This is just a huge symbol throughout the movie, and man, I almost lost my head watching this movie. One last detail in this movie surrounds the symbol on the grandmother's necklace. Now, this is the real symbol of Payman, and it can be seen all throughout the film, even on the telephone pole that the sister gets decapitated by. This symbol, along with other dark words like Satany and Zaza, can be seen engraved in the walls of the house if you look for them closely. Ugh, I'm just getting the chills talking about this. I need to stop. And in our number one spot is Shutter Island. The 2010 film Shutter Island, directed by Martin Scorsese, is a psychological thriller starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Teddy Daniels, a US Marshal. Teddy, alongside his partner Chuck Aole, played by the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, are sent to Shutter Island to investigate the disappearance of a missing patient from a mental institution of the criminally insane. Now, this film is filled with symbolism, like the constant use of the colors blue and red symbolizing water and blood. Now, what does that have to do with this movie? Well, spoiler, towards the end of the film, we find out that Teddy is a patient on Shutter Island, in fact, the most dangerous patient. The water used throughout the film represents the lake that Teddy's kids drowned in, while the dark red color symbolizes blood from when he shot his wife. Water is definitely a symbol of the truth of his past. In the opening scene when Teddy and Chuck are on the boat to the island, Teddy tells Chuck that he feels sick because of the water. This is a metaphor that he feels sick because he can't handle the truth of what happened to his family. Furthermore, in the movie, there is a scene where Teddy is interrogating patients, and one patient asks for a glass of water, yet when she is drinking it, no glass appears to be visible. Let me show you the scene. This symbolizes how Teddy is trying to block out water as much as he can, since it reminds him of his past. Now, another detail that you may have noticed in this film is a particular statue that is constantly shown in shots when they are in Dr. Colley's office. In particular, in the scene where Teddy suffers from a bad migraine, which is actually just his withdrawal from medication, the lightning flashes and illuminates a statue. This statue is of the Greek god Pan, where the word panic is derived from. This statue emphasizes how Teddy is starting to realize that there is something off about the asylum and how he is slowly starting to panic and slip more into insanity. Now, the biggest detail in this movie that when I discovered this I literally yelled Eureka, well not actually but figuratively, Like, I was so proud of myself. And this has to do with the posters that are seen in Mr. Colley's office. Hanging on the walls in his office are photos of a person getting a lobotomy done and a person hunched over in a cave. Additionally, when Dr. Colley mentioned these photos, he says those paintings are quite accurate. This points out that those photos are foreshadowing upcoming events. When comparing these photos to the scene later on when Teddy imagines that he sees Dr. Sheehan in the cave, it appears as if the painting is an exact representation of the scene. Coincidence? I think not. This highlights that Teddy has had this hallucination of the doctor in the cave before, and that Dr. Colley is aware of this, and so he frames them on his wall in his office as a way to trigger Teddy to remember his past. With regards to the lobotomy photo, well, it is said at the end of the movie, since Teddy just relapsed into his old persona, he went to go get a transorbital lobotomy, done to erase his past permanently. That's it for today's video. Hopefully you aren't too freaked out. As always, why don't you give this video a big thumbs up? As always, why don't you give this video a big thumbs up? Comment down below and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos.